This is Harry from Zero Bounds Music Academy, and today I'm going to show you how to make this kick and this snare. So I wanted to make something that has a uniquely Japanese feel to it. So what I did with this kick, as you can see, so it's a mixture of different taiko hits in here along with an AU5 kick as well. So here's the first sound. So this is like, if you can imagine a taiko, like the giant Japanese drums, what they'll do is they'll take their sticks and they'll hit the rim. So that is a rim click there. Also have a body hit. So the volume at the end is truncated very quickly. So as you can see, it's rolled off super quick there. And then that's the nice meaty hit of it. And then here is the like actual electronic-y kick part that you'd be more used to. Yeah, and layered together, you get this. So let's break down the effects on each of them. So on the click, have a little bit of Slate Digital's Fresh Air here just to give it a bit more energy. Let me take everything off. So there's a lot of low and rumble there, which I don't want from that because I can easily get that from the kick. So I'm going to take that off. And I want a little bit more of that high in it. This is a great plugin for doing it without introducing a lot of phasiness or ugliness or things like that. So versus a little more click, a little more crispness on the upper end, and that really helps the top end of the kick to shine through. So let's go into the taiko. So this is the main body of the drum. Let's see. Oh. So I just have one crazy looking EQ here, so I'll take it off for a sec so you can hear. So I'm bringing out a little bit of that top end, notching out some of this funkiness here. It's subtle, but just that was a frequency range that I didn't want to be taken up here since I'm getting a lot of that in the rim click. So, and then I want to take out a lot of this low mid gunk here, because if this is playing along with a bass or anything in the low end, we want to leave that range open for those instruments, and we really just want the bottom of the bottom bass to come through. So that's where we get it. All right, so for the actual kick drum itself, did I put any effects on this at all? I did not. Okay, so no effects on that, but cutting it short takes out a lot of the bassiness there. So we're not, it's not clashing with this taiko here. So we're actually getting our bassiness from the taiko. Now, let's bring it all together. Okay, so a few effects on here. I'll just turn them all off real quick. It still works, but it's just not as fun. All right, so using a kilohertz compressor, there are a range of different compressors you can use. This is just what I go to when I need something quick and easy. You don't need to worry about it too much. So low threshold, this is going to have it kick in really quick. So, or it's going to kick in at a really low threshold, so it's always going to be compressing pretty much. Relatively short attack, short release. So this means that that initial transient is going to come in, it's going to dip, and it's going to come right back up. So the level of the kick overall is going to be much flatter. So it's bringing out all of that, all that air from the rim click from before. So if you listen without it, so big low and thump up front, and then the kind of dies off after. I'm going to bring it in. It's a nice meaty punch at the beginning, and then we have that delayed whoosh effect from it. So that that rim click and its reverb are really coming out there. Pumping up the bass a little bit here, just again the lowest of the low end. All right, just meatier. Let's see. Oh, this is a great distortion module. I love Preditone. So without it, you have, and then with. So really nice and thick. If you're if you're creating any kind of trap beat or something like that, like this is not going to be as good for dubstep type snare because you want like a really short descent in the pitch and just hit it and get out of the way. But if you're looking for something that's super meaty, that sticks around a little while, this is good in trap like genres and stuff like that. So what's happening here is we're really saturating like everything together, and we're getting some extra low end gritty goodness. So there's a lot of warmth that comes from this. It's bringing everything together a little more in a way that the compressor can't do on its own. And then the very last stage, and just notching out some of the more tonal elements here. So now that we brought on all that warmth, we're getting back out of the way and just nice, clean, relatively clean hit there. Notching out some of this. This is largely going to be left for the snare. You don't really need that 2K range as much in the kick. And then I'm just bringing in a little bit of the top end up here, and then we have our kick. All right. So then let's look at our snare. So there are several different parts to this. I'm actually just going to get this out of the way. Wait a minute. No, I'll leave it for now. All right, so the base of this, I wanted to be useful as a regular, like an actual snare for different kinds of EDM genres. This is mainly going to work the best for trap again, but there are other uses of it too. You could make a use for a dubstep, other heavier bassy genres. So I started off with a virtual Riot snare, and I made a lot of adjustments to it. So let's see what is going on here. I'm only notching out that initial frequency, the fundamental frequency around 400 hertz. Now, I wouldn't be doing that if I just wanted to use the snare because it was mixed very well originally, but I'm actually going to bring in that tonality with another instrument, as you'll see. So here, I believe, is the original taiko hit. Yeah. So that was roughly an octave below the pitch of the virtual Riot snare, but I wanted it to be in line with pitch. So it's got a super papery feel, which I kind of like in this context because it still has the tonality of the actual drum itself, just boosting the pitch a little bit there, cutting after it. This is a great thing to use in a lot of EQ in general. If you're boosting one region, you cut what's right around it. It doesn't make it seem as bloated sometimes, so I wanted to notch that out since I'm boosting at a pretty fine range here, and then just bringing out some of that snap and the 3K range. So, and then we're saturating it without the saturation. And with. That's where a lot of the paperiness comes from. It's kind of like, it's dry, but the smack is stretched out a little bit. So, and it's just going to, when everything comes together, make it sound a little more, a little fuller, I should say. So again, I'm doing something similar to what I was doing before it, but more dramatically cutting and then just kind of accentuating what I wanted out of the post-saturated version. So a lot cleaner, and this is going to sit better in the mix of all these different elements. And then I think I have just one more here. Right. Okay, so I muted the original, but this instrument, and you could use a sample for this sort of thing, but I wasn't able to find the exact one I was looking for, so I went to a trusty East-West library for this. So this is a spring drum, so you can get an idea of the kind of sounds that come from this. So it's kind of like you kind of get that metallic quality from a cymbal, but it's a little hissier, spittier. It's not as sharp of an attack. So this kind of spreads things out nice, and it almost acts as a sort of snare, but not quite, which will really make things sound unique very quickly. So, and then once again, just cutting out all the low stuff. Don't need that. I would rather that be taken up by other elements. Now, all together. Now, I'm going to split. Oh, a lot of effects there. So, let's see without. Again, still works, but not super exciting. So, first thing, Valhalla Rim Reverb. If you're working in Ableton, the stock reverb in there works fairly well. I would put it I would take it off eco mode because it's helpful to have that. When you're doing something that's more acoustic like this, you want that higher level of fidelity. But I prefer to use Valhalla Room. You can use a variety of them. But I set it at a pretty low mix, and the reason is because I'm compressing it right after. And there you can really get the spring drum coming out and the reverb and everything. Like it hits hard initially, and then there's that wash that comes after. Now, if I were to dial up the reverb here, it just completely destroys the clarity of it. So that's good. Just notching out a couple of things that I didn't love. A little bit of that snare's fundamental frequency because the reverb is really emphasizing it. And then up here in the 2K range, we're taking a bit of that harshness away. So nothing super complex. Now with Fresh Air, once again, I'm bringing up a bit of the air on the high end. So without. And with. And just more clarity in the high end, and it just everything feels a little more open and fresher, and then you're going to get that the nice click from that as well. And then just a little bit of limiting so that as an exported sample, it's just not like peaking and then dropping to essentially zero volume. That brings the volume of the back end up a little bit, but really, when you're limiting for something like a snare drum, you're really just looking to bring down the transient a bit. You don't want to bring it to nothing, because I could keep going lower and lower, but really quickly you can see how that destroys the transient versus. You want to keep most of that. You just don't need all of that heavy peak above that. So we have our two drums. And you can make a variety of different types of beats with this. This would work really well for trap, especially if you want sort of a Japanese feel in there, or anytime you're just looking to do something that's a little different than what's conventional. Having purely electronically created kick and snare is fine, but there's a limit to the sound that you can get from that. So this is going to allow you to get a lot of different timbres, allow you to make more unique music, and still help keep your production chops up. So that is a Japanese-inspired kick and snare, and hope you enjoyed it. And then stay tuned for the next one.